Hi there, my name's Adam Fielding, and if you've watched one of my streams before, then you probably know the score by now. During this session, I'll be creating an entire track from scratch over the course of the next couple of hours or so, unless something goes catastrophically wrong or I get really, really into it, in which case, who knows what's going to happen. So just to kind of go over the basics, so this is my default rack setup, which I'll be using today. I've got a series of aux sends, so I've got 4 aux sends, one of which is this Ubic reverb, which goes into an M-class EQ to roll off the lows and boost the highs a little bit. I've got a Kong which is acting as a tape delay. Why I'm using the Kong's tape delay, I just happen to like how it sounds, and yeah. I've also got an echo device here for stereo panning, stereo delay rather, and a DR1 deep reverb, which is kind of for more spacey, ethereal reverbs. I imagine I'll probably be using that one more than anything else because that tends to be how I lean at the moment. So, and I've also got this very simple post-mix setup, which is just a saturation knob to apply a little bit of saturation and compression before it goes into an ozone maximizer, just to give it a bit of a boost. Just to point out, if I were writing music on my own, not as part of a stream, I would have both of these devices disabled, because mixing while you've got post-mix effects on is a recipe for disaster, and I would not recommend it. But because I'm currently mixing on headphones and because this is part of a live stream, having a limiter on the output, not such a terrible idea. So that's the general gist of this rack. So where do I begin? Well, I feel like the last music making session I did was more of a down tempo number, so I might give the tempo a bit of a bump today, stick it at 120 BPM. Yeah, let's just get going. One thing I kind of wanted to try was to create an NN19 sampler. My reasoning for this will become apparent very soon. Basically, this week, as I mentioned before the stream actually started, to everyone who was on Twitch who happened to catch me beforehand, I've been using a reactor ensemble this week called Roidos. I've used it a little bit before, and I dropped a bunch of one-shot samples into Roidos, and it came up with some really, really cool stuff. So what I'm going to do this time is I'm just going to take those one-shots that I exported for use in Roidos and just pop them into an NN19. I'm hoping this will kind of create a really neat sort of percussive type of thing. So I'm just going to drag all of those into this NN19, right-click, and select Auto Map Samples. So now those are all mapped across the keyboard. So there we go. So now what I'm going to do, well, first things first, I'm going to turn down that mix channel. And the second thing we're going to do is just hook that up to a matrix pattern sequencer and turn up the steps to 32 and randomize the pattern. And fingers crossed, we should have some weird percussive stuff going on. And there we go, some weird percussive stuff is going on. So now I'm just going to engage the high pass filter to roll off the lows there. It's just a little bit of percussion. So I might have a play with layering this up in a second actually, but I'm going to adjust the steps to 31 so it keeps the pattern varied throughout the length of the song. I'm going to drop a couple of these notes as well because we don't need it playing constantly. So I'm not too... Actually, I'm going to lower the octave as well, and I might disable that. There we go. So it's just come some little sort of glitchy percussive stuff. So now what I'm going to do is create another NN19 and do something very similar. So I'm just going to drop a bunch more samples in there. And right click and select Auto Map Samples, and I'm going to do pretty much the same thing again, but this time I'm not going to engage the low pass filter. I'm kind of wondering if I can get some interesting bassy percussion. So if I randomize that pattern, let's try that. needs a little bit of work. That's kind of obnoxious. So if I've just taken those 2 steps out, and I'll take a few more steps out as well. Right, okay. So now what I'm going to do is to add a little bit of variation to the first glitchy pattern. So basically what I've got here is I've got this sort of glitchy pattern, which is I haven't rolled off the low. Well, I haven't rolled off the lows, so there's a lot more bass present there, so it's kind of filling out the lows quite nicely. In fact, I might just roll off the highs a little bit as well, just to smooth that out. And the first percussive layer is this kind of little glitchy sort of layer, and the second layer is that sort of more beefy layer. So I might remove a couple more hits, just to keep it a little more simplified. Right, okay. So with the first layer, I think it'd be kind of cool to vary that up a little bit. So I'm going to go into my effects folder, which is handily open, and drop this buffer pattern in. So you should be able to hear some sort of like little glitchy repeating effects, or beat repeat effects. So those are triggering through this matrix is connected to this buffer device here, which is triggering those little sort of repeats. There's also this Thor here, which has a built-in sequencer, which I'm using to trigger the global envelope, which is controlling the length sweep dial here. So every now and then you hear this kind of descending sort of sweep. I talked about this a little bit last week during my more sort of freeform session, so I'm sort of putting it into practice here. So that's kind of neat. So let's just add a little bit of variation there. Okay. So I've got some weird percussion going on here. What I might do is just disable the patterns, because I'm sure I won't want those patterns playing all throughout the track, and just edit the automation on both of those, so that when I want those to be playing, I just have to engage the patterns. So for anyone curious, those sort of little one-shot samples, they actually came from MicroTonic. I just bounced a load of samples out, and then I reduced the length of all of them so they were incredibly short. So that's why they sound kind of sort of more, well, short, basically. So speaking of which, I might actually adjust the amp envelope on some of these so it's a little more clicky. That's a little too much, I think. There we go. Right. Cool. So I think it's time to stick some actual drums over the top of it instead of this kind of glitchy stuff. I'll give these some sensible names. So I'll call this glitch pattern, and this one percussive pattern. That seems vaguely sensible. So right, so I guess the first thing we need is a kick. So I'm going to dive into the Wave Alchemy folder and go into Christmas selection, because now that Halloween is behind us, Christmas is the next major holiday, and I'm sure everyone's looking forward to being bombarded with holiday appropriate stuff. So I'm just going to go in here and grab a yeah, I don't really want a loop. You know, I'll use that to push it. Oh, that's oops. I find it helps if you remember which keys you're pressing. So yeah, let's dial that back a bit. Right. I think I might just go for a sort of 4-on-the-4 flavor. It's been a little while since I did that generally, and it's been a while since I did that in any stream, so why not? Okay, I'll just grab a snare. I might go into the Evolve Free folder here, which is it's a collection of samples from Wave Alchemy's Evolution drum sampler, which is pretty good. I don't actually own it myself, but I've used it before, and it's great. I'm tempted to pick it up if it goes on sale. One of those. That sounds kind of crispy. Right. Actually, I'll create a new note lane here and keep it simple. Alright. Alright. And just keep that going. This is interesting. I feel like this. I might be going for a sort of more dark techno-y vibe with this one today, so that'll be interesting. It's really interesting how, like I said, I didn't really have any particular idea at the start of this session as to where this was going to go. I just decided to bump the tempo and had this idea of throwing some little glitchy drums in there. So it's interesting that it's going in this direction. I'm happy with it. So let's see how it goes. So I'm gonna have some hats. So that'll probably be a little loud, so I'm going to create a new note lane for the redrum there and just keep it simple. I'll probably reduce the length of that, so yeah. I'm not sold on that hat, so if we just drop that in. Not sure about that either. Oh, that could be cool. Maybe not. Don't worry, this won't just be 2 hours of me browsing through hat samples, I can assure you. At least I hope not. Actually, one thing I'd quite like to do is on this percussive pattern. I think it'd be really cool to add some compressed reverb. So I'm going to use the old faithful RV7000, dial the dry wet back really far because I don't want a huge amount. Maybe further than that. So it's just a little bit of reverb. So what I'm going to do now is just, well, I was going to use the M-class compressor, but actually I might as well use the SSL comp here. So I'm just going to turn the ratio down. Actually, no, turn the ratio right up. Turn peak mode on and turn fast attack on. So now it's really squashing the reverb. I might turn fast attack off actually. Might have a little bit more reverb. So I think that'll just give it a little bit of space, just a little taste of that. I might take that low pass filter off actually. Someone's just said, how are you liking the new features? I'm really liking them actually, especially the multi-lane edit function. That's super useful. So obviously I'm not creating a particularly complicated drum line here, but actually being able to see the individual drums. And it's especially useful. Earlier in the week I was working on a track which used a bunch of strings, and it was really good just to be able to see each individual string element kind of all on one lane, as opposed to having to kind of remember which lane contains what note and all that stuff, which is how I'm used to working. But it was quite nice to just not have to do that. So yeah, for orchestral and sort of string-based stuff and drums in particular, I think it's incredibly useful. Yeah, I really like the adaptive quantization as well. In fact, I'm going to turn that on now. So the further you zoom in, the higher the resolution of the notes you're editing. So I'm going to zoom right out there. So if I was working on one other thing I really like is the fact I've added 128th notes as well. For some reason, I really like working with 164th notes, and before now to get to 128th resolution, you've had to sort of draw in a couple of notes, go to the tool window and then double the tempo. Then yeah, so you could double it again, get 1/256 or 1/512 if you're crazy like that. So it's cool for sort of little rolls and flourishes and that kind of thing. So I guess I should probably add some kind of base. So what I'm going to do is, instead of diving into my patch library, I'm going to create Old Faithful Poly 6, because of course I am a weak man. So I'm going to turn the envelope intensity down on the filter, set it to pulse width modulator mode. This is all kind of standard stuff for me now at this point if I'm creating a baseline. And because it's 4 on the floor, I am going to add a synchronous and use the old pumping effect. Right, so if I go to rack extensions and synchronous and effect patches, pumping, and sidechain. So if I shall bypass that for now, because otherwise I won't be able to hear what I'm doing. So right, now turn that back on, turn the filter down a bit. Right, okay. So it's simple, but it's doing the job. I might roll the filter down a bit more as well. I want it to be really deep. And I might reduce the intensity of that pumping effect as well. So I'm just adjusting the level control here. Someone's just said, I picked up synchronous a while ago but couldn't work the graphic display thing too well. Tips. It can be a little finicky to work with. I contributed some of the effects for the factory bank. I can't actually think of which ones I did off the top of my head. But it's incredibly useful, but it's one of those things where I tend to use it more if I have handy presets ready to drop in. I also worked on a refill called Filter Research 4, I think was the one which featured a bunch of synchronous effects. It's great if you have a vague idea of what you want to do in mind, but you working with the graphic display can be a little fiddly. So unfortunately I don't really have any particularly useful tips for you there. But it's it can be great if you can coax some interesting stuff out of the curves. But to be honest, these days I tend to use it primarily as a sort of cheating sidechain pumping device, which is incredibly lazy, but it does the trick. So I'm going to change the name of that to bass. So what I might do is just have the bass sort of ramp up the filter frequency on the end of certain sections. So if we, yeah, that could work. Maybe not have it quite so sudden. So if I draw more of a curve in like that, maybe not quite that extreme. Okay, so that's sort of coming along. Right. Okay. I kind of feel like I need some sort of melody. I feel like I'm onto a good thing with the Poly 6. One thing I really like the sound of is the Poly 6 run through the Kong tape echo. So I'm gonna use that now. So just engage aux N2 on this. I'm gonna call that ARP because I think I'm gonna go with a sort of ARPy kind of thing. So turn the decay down, sustain right down. Have a little bit of that. So turn up at the analog so we get some drift. Right. And map the velocity to the filter cutoff. So the higher the velocity, the higher the cutoff. So it's in G sharp. So if I I might turn the release down and adjust the time on that delay so it's more in line. Unfortunately, there is no tempo sync on the Kong's tape echo, but oh, there we go, that's pretty close. So now if we just draw in some velocity changes. I might actually, no, I'm going to leave that. Now I'm going to go into the tool window and randomize some of the note velocities there, so it just adds a little bit of variation. And I'll do the same here. I might try transposing that down an octave actually, just to hear how that sounds. Okay, cool. I'm thinking it'd be good to have some extra percussion kind of over the top of that. So I'm going to go back into the Christmas selection, Wave Alchemy stuff, go into the loops folder and see if there's any shakers. I think would probably do it. Are there? Oh yeah, there are. Brilliant. Not entirely sold on these, but we'll see. I'm going to turn that right down. Okay, that actually works, I think. Right, okay, that's kind of neat. So now I'm going to go into my patch library here and grab some kind of ambient thing. So I'm going to grab this patch here, Into the Unknown, which I believe is a Europa patch from my Europa Relay ReFill. So if I just call that texture for now, actually I guess it's going to be more like a pad. Just call it pad, and just draw that in. Right. Yeah, I wasn't entirely sold on that that additional E in the second section of that 8-bar loop, but I think that's working. I'm just going to vary up the drums a little bit as well. Just something simple. Now I feel like I want to add some kind of movement, some sort of synthy movement over the top of that. So I'm just looking in the sequence section of this of my patch library. As I said, this ambient patch here, this Europa ambient patch, it's part of my Europa Relay ReFill, and I think it might be one of the ones I've included in the demo version of the ReFill, which is, I think that includes 15 patches, 10 or 15. So you can grab that from the Fielding SoundWorks website, which is fieldingsoundworks.com, and just use it yourself. So yeah, I think I went into a little bit of detail as to how I basically treat sound design in Europa as working with a mini mix, especially with textural stuff. So in this instance, layers 2 and 3 are going through this low pass filter, so it's rolling off the lows quite massively, whereas engine 1 is going through its own separate filter. So it's basically mixing like a mini mix inside this one instrument. And like I said last week, I do tend to do a lot of mixing inside the rack itself. So when I actually hit the mixer, there's not a huge amount to change. So actually, I'm just going to change that to shaker loop and change that to drums. There we go. I feel like I could do with some extra percussive stuff there. So if I go back to the Wave Alchemy folder, go to the Christmas selection, have a look in here. There's no particular reason why I'm using the Christmas selection. I just happened to pick it, and yeah, I think it's working. So I'm thinking. I want something kind of high, so turn the length down. Turn length. I think I'll just roll with that, really. I kind of feel like I want some extra sort of bassy flourishes, so I'm going to go back into the patch library here, and I'm going to grab a bass patch I've got called Containment, which is a sort of rising bass patch. So I'm just going to play a note here. I'm going to turn the phaser right up because I want that sort of phasing effect. I'm going to roll off the lows because we've already got a bass drone going on, so we don't need too much stuff clouding the low end of the mix. Add some delay to that, and I'm going to adjust this ramp so it kind of comes in quicker. Yeah, that could be kind of cool. I feel like I want something else there. Maybe some kind of let's have a look. Some sort of chorus or more of a pronounced phaser. So I might, yeah. Let's have more phasing going on. Yeah, I really like all of the synapse effects, and most of their instruments as well are incredible. They have a really good bundle going on at the moment in the rack extension shop. I'd seriously recommend checking it out. It's really good. I might actually have that just a little quicker. I'll just have half that. I think I've overdone it with the phaser. That sounds kind of ridiculous. Someone said, are you going to build it up from a block again? That was some impressive wizardry last time. I might do. Actually, I'm undecided. I'm on the fence. I think I need some more distortion on that. Oh, that'll be a trick. Actually, what I might do, transpose that up and have a adjust the pitch wheel so it drops an octave as it plays. So if I go to pitch range here and set that to 12, maybe not. What I want is a comb filter on that, I think. So I'm going to create a Thor instrument and use that as a comb filter device. So go here, go to Thor. Whereabouts are you, Thor? Oh, so I'm looking in effects. What is wrong with me? Right, instruments, Thor. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my patch library, go to tools, and there's this audio in effects template. So I'm going to take the output of Europa, pop that into this Thor here, and now I can just use filter 3 here. Right. So now yeah, that's more like it. Just have a sweep like that. Actually, I'm gonna adjust this in a second because I want. Yeah, I'm gonna have that so it's slower again, but also adjust the attack so it kind of fades in. Yeah, I think that comb filter is a bit much at the moment. Kind of like that. I want lots of feedback on that. Just the filter on that delay so it's less high. And yeah, I don't want to overdo it actually, no, I'll leave that as it is. Cool, I think that's something I can play with throughout the course of this track. Just thinking, is there anything else I want to add to that, or do I just want to crack on with arranging it? I think, no, I think I'm probably going to leave that for now. Yeah, I'll probably start with the glitchy percussion at the start. And have that atmosphere sort of fading in. I might tease some of those little comb effects as well throughout the course of this. I'm just using a simple low pass filter to fade that in. And then bring in the kicks. I'm starting to feel like a sensible thing to do would have been to just use a block for this, but I'm feeling different today, so I don't really need that. I might have that fade in actually. And I'll adjust a filter on that, so I'm going to add, actually no, I'm going to use the SSL filter on this, so I'm just going to turn on low pass filter there and just have that so it sort of sits in the back. Cool. I might extend that. And have that filter come in a little more. And there we go. Actually, I'm going to use that. That's kind of cool. That was a total accident, but I actually quite like how that doesn't start there. So what I might do is just have that drop down there. Have that still quite filtered. No, I don't want that snet coming out, I just want the hat. And I'll have, oh wait, that's disabled, so I want, actually I might have that fade in there, yeah. Okay. Actually, yeah, I'm going to have a little bit of reverb on this first NN19 here, so that kind of peels out as the track opens up. So just have a little DR1 and just actually I want that. Actually, I don't know. I'm going to have that sort of glitching effect coming over time. So handily on all these little effects inserts I've created, I tend to include a dry-wet knob as well. So even though this is an effect that wouldn't typically have a dry-wet setting on it, it's included as part of the insert effect. So I can have that sort of fade in. So I need that to be copied across, so I still have the matrix device playing. Have some more of these little flourishes coming in, so I might just bring that over. Let's have a play with the frequency on here. So Right, okay. I think for the next section I'll probably bring in the bass poly 6. Except I won't have the rising filter coming in just yet, and I might have the cutoff slowly come in. Actually, I kind of feel like I want like a really short, almost snare, but like sort of a noisy thing just to come in there, and I can ditch that later in the track. So if I just have like a something like that, but just really short. And I might fuzz that up in a second as well. So just have another couple of those. All right. Might have that extra little glitch come on as well. Not glitch, little percussive thing come in. Actually, no. I actually quite like just the idea of leaving it quite simple for this next section before we start bringing in more elements. Don't worry, I will introduce more than one chord at some point. I say chord. Again, I seem to be focusing entirely on single notes at the moment, much like the last tune I wrote during these music making sessions, relying entirely on the chords baked into the synth patches, which it's an interesting way of working. What I might do before that section is have the feedback cranked right up on the delay. Maybe not that much. I'll have it drop out sooner. What I might do here is increase the size on the reverb on this atmospheric patch as well, so we get this big wash. And adjust the amount so there's more reverb there. That's kind of cool. So as the reverb size adjusts on this synth, we get sort of a slight pitching up effect. So I'll just play it for you in isolation so you can hear what I mean. That's quite cool. That suits the dark vibe I'm going for. I'm going to increase the decay on that massively. So basically, yes, all the reverb for this section. So someone said we need more glitch in this beat. I kind of agree with you there. I'm going to do exactly what I said I wasn't going to do earlier, and I'm going to stick an instance of Reactor in this and play around with Roidos and see if I can get something interesting popping out. But after I'm done, I'm going to bounce that to audio and then remove the instance of Reactor that I'm putting in. So hopefully it shouldn't mess with things too much. So I'm going to go into my patches folder and go into the devices folder. And oh, it's not in there, obviously. It's just, yeah. Actually, no, I do have a patch. It's in, God, what was it called? Nope, can't remember. Anyway, yeah, I'll just go to here, just fire up an instance of Reactor. Yep, someone's posted a link to Roidos 2, which is the commercial variant of what I'm about to use. Roidos 1 is free and it's available in the user library, and I am super tempted to pick up Roidos 2 because I love what this does. So basically, I'm going to open up my modified version of Roidos. So basically, there's main differences with this compared to the original. I've put in my own one-shots, which is what I'm using in the NN19s as well. And I've also adjusted it so that there's a single trigger mode here, which basically means you select it and it just plays one single sample, which you can select using this knob here, or a random mode, which picks a sample between 1 and the number here. Whereas I thought, why not set it up so you can select a sample between, say if you set the sample to 31 and the ROM range to 10, it would select samples between 31 and 41 instead of 1 and 11. So I did that. So that was a very simple change, but it seemed to make a nice bit of difference. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn the ROM range up, turn the samples up, and actually I'm going to open up a one of these presets. Let's go with 11. That sounds fun. And I'm going to turn this right down because I imagine it's going to be super loud. And let's just hear how that sounds. Oh my, right. Okay, I need to play with this. That off. I don't want it to be using the built-in sequencer, so I'm going to use my own matrix again and randomize that and set it to 31 steps. Randomize that pattern. Right. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to crush that because I reckon that would sound really cool through some kind of bit crusher. So I'm going to use kilohertz bit crusher. So I really like kilohertz's stuff. I'm a huge fan. I haven't used it as much as I typically would actually in the last couple of videos I've done, but they're super simple. But the way you can route them together, it's really good. A multipass is something else. I really need to delve into that more. It's more of a sort of atmospheric glitchy thing than I was expecting actually, so that's worked out quite interestingly. I might have that fade in as well. I really want to crush that some more though. Reverb there. Actually, I might use the U-Big. Someone's asked, is it taking the samples from your track or are they random samples? It's basically, I've previously modified this, so I've replaced all the samples that were in here with the samples that I've used in this track. But there's nothing stopping me from replacing them with anything else. That's just what I happen to have done. I've saved it as a separate ensemble. So it's using Roidos as it is in the user library, the Reactor user library, but yeah, I've just replaced the samples myself, and the matrix device is triggering which notes are being played. Well, it's just triggering notes basically, but it's selecting random notes because I've set it to random mode here. So it's pretty random. A lot of what's going on with the percussion here is actually quite random, which is quite interesting. Typically, you know, if I was working on a track like this, I'd probably be a little more meticulous with what I'm actually doing. But it's, yeah, but sometimes you can get some really interesting results out of randomness. It's a really good place to start in terms of getting a track going, which is obviously what I'm doing here. So I kind of feel like that's a let's go. Someone said make the glitches slower and add shimmer reverb so it's more atmospheric. I may try that if we just. That's not slower at all. Ah, I see. Yes, I didn't actually set it up correctly. That's the button I wanted. That's weird. I didn't think it was using the built-in sequencer. That's better, right. It was definitely using the matrix before. Well, yeah, that's right. Someone said sample management in Reactor is still pretty painful. Yes, it is. Yeah, it's not great. Originally, I just wanted to replace all the samples that are in here with my own samples, and I used the replace functionality. But unfortunately, if you select more than one sample, you can't use that, so I had to do it one by one. I could have just dropped them in, and it would have worked fine, because I've already tried that, but stupidly, that's what I did, and it took flipping ages. Not that I'm bitter or anything. Someone's asked me if I like renoise. To be honest, it's been such a long time since I used it. I couldn't really comment one way or the other. It really appealed to me the last time I used it. And obviously, coming from a tracker background before I was using Reason, that really appeals to me. But it just feels a little alien to work with now. There's nothing against renoise. I think it's fantastic. But yeah. There's two of them. I'm not sure about those triplets. I might change that back to just 1/8 and bring that back. I quite like the sort of almost mechanical nature of where this is going, and I kind of want to stick with that, I think. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut that out. I'm going to bounce that to audio, and then I'm going to play with the effects in the actual audio track once it's bounced. So once I've done this, I'm probably going to get rid of Reactor, although the DSP bar is surprisingly low. I'm not entirely sure what I've changed since last time. I lowered the sample rate from 48 to 44K, but I wouldn't have thought it'd make that much of a difference. But I'm not complaining anyway, so if I just paste that old bit crusher back in and mute that. I'm going to normalize that as well. Actually, I'm going to turn it down before I do that. Otherwise everyone's going to be deafened by the sound of glitchy noise. Didn't mean to turn that on. Right. Yeah, I kind of feel like I want a more I want an RV7000 on there. That's the kind of reverb I think I want. So if I just drop the old RV7000 in, have some sort of spring reverb, I think. So it's more kind of squelchy. I quite like that. I feel like I probably want some kind of compression on there as well. So again, going to head back to the SSL mixer crank the ratio up, turn the ratio down, turn the release down, and see what that does. This time I do want a fast attack. Yeah, I definitely want to. I feel like I'm obsessing over this little glitchy effect in the background way too much. Turn that reverb down a bit. Just realised I haven't saved this, and I'm using Reactor, which I feel is a dangerous thing to be doing. So yeah, I'm just gonna very quickly do that. I'll just call this squelchy pattern. Just gonna play what I've got so far. Someone said sounds like little walkie-talkie sounds, which is actually kind of what I think I was going for. I was just wondering how to actually make that work. This seems to have been a bit of a happy accident, really, which I'm good with. I feel like I need some additional atmospheric thing going on in the background there as well, just in the background. And I want that to fade in. Someone suggested getting some vocal ad-libs. That's not a bad idea. I might do that later, but I think for now I'm just going to stick with the instrumental and kind of arrange it a little better. I feel like I need to progress the track a little bit because I'm getting stuck on the little details at this point. Actually, speaking of getting stuck on the little details, I want that kick to drop out. And I do also want an atmospheric thing at the start. So what I might do is drop in an instance of Massive, which is here. So this is a patch from my Massive Cyberscape sound bank, which from the name I feel like it should fit the style of the track, but I'm just going to turn it down and see how that fits. That's cool, I like that. I think it needs more reverb. It's the solution to all of my problems. It's just drown everything in reverb. I do want that to fade out though, so if I just keep that going, stretch that out, just have that filter out. Right, one thing I said I was going to do is I was going to crush that little snare that comes in. Someone said I tend to throw Audiomatic on all drum perk and love it. Oh, it's Stuart. Hi, Stuart. Really glad you can make it. Stuart is awesome. I've known him for quite a long time now, actually. He basically handles pretty much the entire back end of my adamfielding.com website and is an all-round awesome guy. So yeah, hi, I'm really glad you can make it. I don't tend to use Audiomatic as much on my drums now. If anyone who watched my older streams might remember that I did used to do that quite a lot, but I haven't done it in quite a while. I do sometimes do it. I do use the hi-fi setting and kind of use an EQ afterwards to bring the mids back in, which is kind of a weird thing, but I like how it sounds. But after it's just a personal taste thing. My taste changed a little bit, but yeah. Might actually increase the sample rate over time. Not that I want to be overusing bit crushers. So that's just kind of subtly changed there. I kind of feel like I want some little beat repeaty kind of fills, so I'm going to call this crush snare thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a bus and just call it drums. Actually no, I'm going to call it perk because I don't really want the kick to go in there. So I want the squelchy pattern, the glitch pattern, and the percussive pattern to all go into there. So it's my... There we go. That seems sensible. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create an instance of buffer in here. And someone said, have you tried the RX 950 yet? I haven't, but it looks super interesting and I really ought to get on that. Yeah, if this track is anything to go by, I'd probably get a fair bit of use out of it. So I'm going to set that to current mode and put a gate on. Yeah, that could be interesting. Yeah, and because it's not, I'm not going to be repeating the kick, it shouldn't be too overwhelming. So. He says. Right. Yeah, that's the kind of thing I wanted, right. So just little sort of glitchy fill. I might have a just a simple high pass filter kind of coming and go. Right. So it's just a little bit of movement. Someone said, what's this device we work with now? It's called Buffer. It's one of the first rack extensions I think that came out for a reason, or it was one of the early ones anyway. And I'd wanted a device like this for ages in Reason. So when this came along, I bought it pretty much immediately. I love it. It's a beat repeat device. It does exactly what it says on the tin. So you can use it. You can control it using the sequencer, which controls the length of each repeat. And there's lots of different modes you can play around with, and there's this sort of randomized function which I'm not using here, and the gate, so you can kind of have sort of more sort of chopped up kind of effects. Super useful. Definitely recommend checking it out. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I had stopped using it for a while because I was using it on pretty much everything for about a couple of years pretty consistently. So I'm just going to continue this section because I feel like I need to move on, and we'll see where it goes. Alright, I think now would be a good time to bring in that arc. Yeah, I think I need to start bringing those little comb effects back in as well. I also want to adjust those. Yeah, okay, that's neat, I like that. Let's have some more crazy comb filtering going on. Actually, let's have that drop. Someone said, do I generally prefer the Poly 6 over the Mono Poly? They're very different synths. I really like the Mono Poly, and I ended up doing a bunch of patches for a refill with that as well, and I really like it, but for some reason I just keep gravitating towards the Poly 6. I think it's because it's very easy to quickly dial in sounds that just work. I find it very intuitive and very friendly to use. I might have that filter coming a bit as well. Oopsie daisy. Alright. So, I might have that snare come in a second as well. And I might also have the bass rises come in for this section as well. So, bring that down. Oops, I've got that all wrong. For some reason I've accidentally copied an automation lane over there. Right. Find it helps you pressing the right keys. Okay, so it's that one there. So might also. Right. definitely need some more of that filtery goodness going on. Let's bring that atmospheric thing back in as well. And I feel like I need a little sort of transitional reversing thing here, so I'm going to go into my sample library here, go into field recordings, grab what could be interesting to work with. Plastic wrapper squeeze, that sounds fun. So probably thinking that seems like an odd choice for a transitional thing. So all will become apparent very soon. So I've just normalized that so I can have a look at and properly see what I'm working with. I'm just going to chop, say, that bit out. So there's a little bit of a transient there, so that could be interesting. I'm going to stretch that, and I'm going to reverse it. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to fade that in, and then I'm going to put that through this synapse reverb. Crank the time up, crank the dry wet up, crank the low cut up, and fingers crossed this might work. Yeah, there we go. So it's a sort of reverse effect which I created out of not a lot. So yeah, give that a try. To record something around your workspace or anywhere around your house, and just put it into Reason, stretch it out, reverse it, put it through some reverb, and yeah, works a treat. And what I might do here is bring in some frequency modulation on the bass, so I'll have that sort of fade in around here. So it just gives it a bit of extra movement. Don't want that much though. Someone said your mix mastering, it's done in Reason. I tend to do pretty much all of my mixing in Reason. If I'm mastering an entire project, I will probably use something else to do it, or someone else will handle it. But if I'm doing it myself, I'll tend to use Studio One because I love the project view in that. It's great for mastering. Love it to bits. And I tend to use a combination. I'll show you actually. I tend to use a combination of different VSTs, which if I go to my patch library and I go into mastering, I tend to use, I'll just drop it there, equivocate and elevate. So equivocate I used to kind of give it sort of a bit of a smiley EQ curve, just to kind of, it works. And elevate is my limiter. It is super CPU intensive though if you're using full band mode, which is why I don't tend to use it inside Reason. I tend to use it after I've completed a track, which is what you should do anyway, really. But it is super CPU intensive. But Elevate is awesome, and Equivocate, I think they were giving that away for free a couple of years ago, which is how I came across it, and it's fantastic. It's got a great match EQ mode built into it. So there we go. I'm just shilling newfangled audio stuff, but definitely check it out. I love Elevate as a limiter. It's so good. So I'm just going to add a little glitchy effect here. So all I did was selected this pattern and used the tool window and selected alter notes, which alters the notes a little bit because I'm. But that one I don't think works particularly well. So what I'm going to do here is, where is that buffer device? There it is. So I'm going to edit the automation there. So I have this sort of ramp that comes in. So it's actually I want that to be longer. You should be able to hear what I mean. It's what I've used on some of the glitchy percussion as well. So that might be a little extreme actually, but we'll turn that down. So yeah. Cool, there we go. So I think now it would be a good place to go back to where we started with all the elements are in there. And then I'm going to have to actually think of something to do after this point. So, damn it. Right. So if I just copy and paste that again. To mess around with the filter more on that up, I think. I might also increase the delay, the decay rather, just so it sort of washes over a little more. So just like that. Someone said just start removing them one by one. Presto, track finished. I'd like to at least try changing things up just a little bit melodically, but I'll do that in a second. I kind of feel like I want something in that section, like just like a little FM-y flourish, so handily. I do have a bunch of PX7 patches here, so I'm just gonna. That sounds good. Syndicated polymod. Let's drop that in. No, actually, it could work. If I put some delay and a little bit of reverb. No, I don't really think that's working. Let's try a different patch, childish. No. Awry. It's nice, but I want something more kind of plucky. Actually, that's kind of neat. those around, I think that'll work. Basically, I just want a really ridiculously big delay on that, so actually I never used the RV7000 for delay, and I have no idea why nowadays, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to turn the diffusion up so it kind of smears the note a bit, turn the decay right up, use the EQ to roll off the lows, and let's maybe not quite that much diffusion. Automate the brightness, that kind of comes in over time, so I should start off. Actually, I might have that come in over a longer period of time. Extend that section a little bit, and then I'm going to change things up a little bit. Nothing too drastic, I think. I kind of like the fact it's quite a steady groove. Add another little fill here, just use the old alter notes trick again. Actually, no, I'm not. Do the old length sweep thing again. That's kind of cool, I like that. And I used the old reverser that I had here. I might change that name. Reverser. So if I just copy that across, I might transpose that by an octave just to vary it up a bit. I want that to be louder as well. Maybe a little longer. Cool. Right, now I'm going to change things up. I think just a simple bass root note drop. I think that will. Yeah, I think I know what I'm going to do here. So, I'm going to totally cheat. Yeah, this probably would have been a lot easier to do using blocks. I really should have just used them. So, just going to drop that to an E. Yeah, so I'm just gonna have that filter come in.
Interesting.
Still not sold on that key patch. I might swap it out for something else. Just got it in my mind that it'd be really good to have something with kind of an FM-y vibe. I like that. It's not really what I had in mind, but it kind of works. No, not really. Nicely metallic. I think that's the kind of thing I was going for, a sort of percussive kind of FM-y type thing. Yeah, the brightness doesn't really seem to be working, so I'm just going to have that filter in. I really want that atmospheric bed to kind of just wash out. a bit. Yeah, let's want that to pan. Not sure about that. Yeah, I think I'll roll the highs off a little bit there. Right, I'm going to add a pad here. There's this really nice pad that I made in Antidote, which I think could be kind of nice here. Someone said that transition seems like a nice time to pull it back a bit. Yeah, I'm thinking that. So I find it helps if it's not super low. Okay, so I'm just going to pare things back a little bit. Just keep that pad going. In fact, I might filter that pad in over that section, so just enable low pass filter there, and just automate it so it's it's a smooth fade in. Where the hell is that? There we go. Right. For some reason, sometimes Reason has this odd habit where if you're editing in this instance, say editing the low pass frequency of of this particular lane here, or this particular instrument, it will just put the SSL channel way somewhere else in the sequencer. And yeah, I've never really understood that, but it's a minor gripe. So I'm just going to have a big old feedback there. Some more of that. That's why I like the Kong tape echo, is because you can really crank up the feedback and it just sounds, it's fantastic for those kind of washes. I've just realized I want to change that fill a little bit there. I don't want to spend ages messing around with this because, yeah. I think I need some kind of extra reverb on that. In fact, I might use that earlier in the track as well. So if I just automate that. Maybe not quite that much. So again, for some reason, the filter for that channel was way at the bottom of the sequencer, and I have no real idea why that would be the case. But there we go. no prize for guessing where that's going to go. Right. So I might start bringing some of these elements back in. Right. Actually, let's not have those come in just yet. Let's have the shakers come in first. Someone said you need to start labeling your sections. Yeah, to be honest, this is typically how I work. Very messy. To be honest, it's kind of a miracle that I'm actually labeling the tracks at all. So I'm just going to call that FM keys. So yeah, I'm going to call that massive texture. I'm just going to bring the kick back in. I kind of like that sort of rolling feel there. Crank up the decay on that delay for that final key, so that should really ring out. Right, so I want some more of that. Right, I'm going to have that pan either side during this section. Let's just see if that works. Great. Yeah, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish off on that section, but add some kind of extra glitchy element underneath. I'm not entirely sure what. I might bust out Roidos again at this point. Yeah. Also, interestingly, I've just realised I haven't actually added any vocals or guitars. Guitars could be problematic because I've actually packed up my guitar because I'm going to be using it tomorrow. But yeah, I might try recording some vocals in a sec, maybe. Okay, I think that works. I want to add something extra over that. I was thinking of adding a some sort of element when the kick comes in, but I actually quite like the sparseness of it. It's actually, yeah. I mean, typically my sort of number one instinct would be to just add something there to fill in the space, but I quite like the extra space, so I think I might just leave that as it is. But I do want that there. Okay, so I really want that to come in. Someone's asked, would you use the groove mixer on a track like this? If I'd thought about it sooner, I might have done. To be honest, I think the main thing I probably would have used the groove mixer for is if I was adding like an extra clap. In fact, why don't I do that? So I'm going to create a new note lane here and just grab that snare lane. I'm going to mute the rest. I'm going to set this one to A1, and I'm just going to grab myself a clap. So that'll do. So it's quite short. So I'm going to use A1 to slide the note to the left, and also set the random timing. So, oops. So I find it helps if you actually. So how does that sound? Yeah, there we go. It's a little loud at the moment. So you kind of get that slight sort of lead in. It kind of happens just before the snare. So yes, I would. I would use it. So I've introduced some random timing. So each hit kind of it adjusts the timing just a little bit. So it kind of slides either way. But the slide knob here is the main thing that kind of causes it to drift to the left. So I'm just going to highlight that. So if I slide that, so it's much. Ooh, yep, that's better. So much more of a slide. So. That was a really good idea, by the way, thank you. So I'm just going to add like a sort of, I think I'd like a sort of pad underneath just to kind of beef things up at the end. I might still add like an extra little glitchy element in a second, but I think this is going to be the final section before the end of the track. So clearscape, that sounds nice. So I want that to be sort of a big wash. So again, with the reverb, there we go. So. Sooner. Not sold on that transition. Actually, what I might do is bring the art back in during that section. So I don't like that that's not joining correctly. And just have that kind of slowly come in, mainly. Let's try this. Right, okay, I'm just going to totally cheat here and just use the Roidos thing again. I just want a quick glitchy extra layer over the top. So I'm just going to fire this up again, load some random bank. This is, again, it's using the same samples as before, and I'm just going to see how that sounds, and if it works, I'll bounce it. If it doesn't, then I won't. I just want that to kind of come in during this section to kind of build up towards the end. Yeah, I'm just going to bounce that, and then I'll get rid of the reactor instance. Just have that fade in. I think that'll work nicely. And just kind of go from there, really. Right. Always the most fun part of writing any song is waiting for stuff to bounce. I'm actually kind of surprised at how much better my CPU seems to be performing this time around compared to last time. I think not having reactor instances, I think it just didn't like Polyplex. I think Polyplex is just more CPU intensive than I actually gave it credit for. So if I just remove that. Just have that fade in, and then at the end it'd be cool to have some kind of distortion or something. If this is working for anyone, then please let me know in the chat, because I have no idea if... yep, it's green now, so fingers crossed that should be working. I was mostly just tweaking things in the ending, so let's get back to it. Right, so here's where we left off. all these elements fade out. Need to extend that bass as well. So I want that kick to fade out sooner. I also want those FM keys to stop a little sooner as well. Right. So if I just have that filter out as well. Someone's pointed out that it is strange that I'm using line mixers all over the place. It's just, it's just habit. Yeah, especially with things like Selig gain and the kilohertz gain as well. I could just as well be using the kilohertz gain. I don't know why I don't. It's just a bad habit of mine, I'm afraid, at this point. Actually, I really want that to ring out for longer. I love that delay wash, as evidenced by the fact I've used it 3 times. No, I don't like that. I feel like I think I need to extend that pad, because I think it just fills the space out quite nicely. Actually, no, I'm going to leave that last one. Right, well, just for you, I will put a kilohertz gain on the output instead of a line mixer, just so I make sure it fades out properly at the end of the track. Although I want it to be completely silent, so that might not actually be appropriate. Damn it. I'm just going to stick with the line mixer for now, just because I need it to be completely silent at the end of the track. It's only going to be sort of a couple of seconds of fade. So, but the gain will be back in the future, just not right now. Right. So if I edit the reverb automation here, so it's that final pad is all reverb, and extend the time. Actually, no. have an extra bar on the end just to be sure. There we go. Right, I think I'm gonna leave it there, and I'll play it from the beginning. And no doubt I'll probably think of a zillion things I want to change while I'm listening to it. So I say I'll leave it there, but I probably won't. So let's give it a go. Sorry if I just deafened you with that. And there we go. I'm pretty happy with that. There's not really anything I particularly want to change at this point, so I'm happy to call it a day with that, actually. Sorry about the glitches during the stream. Unfortunately, my local recording doesn't seem to be working properly either. So unfortunately, that means when I archive it, I'm basically going to be stitching two bits together, and sorry about that. But never mind. Such is the joy of live streaming, I guess. These things happen, but I don't think you missed a huge amount. I was just messing around with the final section there. I'm happy to blame it on Reactor. Everything's Reactor's fault. I'm just going to blame Reactor somehow. If you've got any questions you'd like to ask me, I'll probably hang around for a few minutes after the stream. But as far as I'm concerned, I think that's done. So what I'll do is, as always, I'll tweak the mix a little bit with using monitors as opposed to my headphones, and I'll post that version online on SoundCloud, and I'll share the Reason document as well if you want to check it out. So that's pretty much it from me, and thanks so much for joining or watching the YouTube stream after, if it's on YouTube or whatever. Cool. Hope to see you next time. I'm hoping to make this a semi-regular thing every other week. So I hope to see some of you again there, and who knows what crazy noise will pop out next time. So thanks again. Cheers and goodbye.